Heels. Well, there are plenty of them here today, and some of them are gorgeous. Madam Chairman, I'll fix that weather for you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's great to be here this afternoon. Now, let's consider what we're talking about here. Well, much as we all love them, it's not about shoes, and it's not about that old boyfriend, although you could have said he was a real heel. But this afternoon, for the purposes of our debate, heels represent women, the female of the species, and hopefully there's no argument with our learned combatants on that score. Consider the boardroom. That's another easy one. Now, that's the place where company directors meet for discussions, debates, and decisions. It's the driving seat of the company. It's the bridge of the ship. It's the cockpit of the plane. And a rightful place. According to the Oxford Dictionary, it means equitable, thoroughly fair, and what is just or right. Not an honour to be bestowed, not a place to be earned, but a right that can be claimed. No doubt our opposition will trot out some story that board members have to earn their place to be on a board, and we have no argument with that. But we're not talking about individuals here. We're talking about the female gender, over half the population. We say women have that rightful claim. We say women have the ability, and Fleur's going to prove there are plenty of talented women available, and we say that women have to open the boardroom door and take their place, and Linda is going to show how to demonstrate that. Hello? Hello? Hello?
Jenny, this is Donald Trump. Listen, I know you're busy, but this is an absolute emergency. Weather is affecting my global empire. I need your expertise. See you in the boardroom.
Donald, I can help you out. He rings me all the time. But first, a little trip down memory lane. Women's rights. It's always been a battle. In the 60s and the 70s, there were the street marches, the impassioned speeches, and of course, don't forget the bra burning, the ultimate defiant gesture. Well, personally, I don't think I would have gone that far, but then again, if it had been a really ugly old thing like this one, I think I'd have burnt it too. Way too much support there. But seriously, the women's debate has often been met with ridicule, harassment and derision. And it was ever thus. Think Cleopatra, Joan of Arc, Queen Elizabeth I. All of these famous women had to claim their rights. It was Boadicea who observed that well-behaved women never make history. It's only been in about the past 50 years that women like you and me have seen a real and significant improvement in our lives, from the bedroom to the boardroom and all the places in between. Even though the women's rights movement started 150 years ago. In 1848, Elizabeth Stanton and a group of friends held their very first women's rights meeting in New York State. They got together and issued a declaration to show where women were treated unjustly, and it reads a bit like a Jane Austen novel. Married women were legally dead in the eyes of the law, and husbands had legal power over their wives. That meant that they could imprison or beat them with impunity. Of course, this still happens in the world today. Women weren't allowed to vote, but they still had to pay property taxes, and this inequality was rife, and it still remains a global issue today. Most occupations were closed to women, and when women did work, they were only paid a fraction of what men earned, and this still happens today. The list went on, and this declaration was the foundation of the women's movement. Women around the world started to rally, and the famous British suffragette Emmeline Pankhurst eventually encouraged militant actions and hunger strikes, and she spent quite a lot of time in jail. In the end, it was the New Zealand government that gave women the first voting rights in 1893. 10 years later, Australian women voted in the first elections, and American and British women had to wait until after the First World War to get their voting rights. So nothing's been achieved without a struggle, and we're still on that long trail of women's rights. And as you open one door, there's always another door ahead. And in business, the next door is the boardroom door, which leads us squarely back to our debate today. And if you really believe that women don't have a rightful place in the boardroom, then the only place that we're headed is backwards. And if you want to go backwards, let's have a think about it. What are we going to throw out? I've got a few ideas here. Perhaps we could throw out education. Don't want that? Fine. What about we throw out a university degree? Women don't want that, do they? No, let's get rid of that. Oh, the right to vote, too much hassle. You've got to get dressed and go up there to the voting polling thing. Now, you women, you don't want a bank account, do you? Because then you'd have to worry about all that money, and that's just too hard for your little brains to worry about. And for goodness sake, who wants a credit card? That'd be hopeless. And a woman certainly wouldn't want to apply for a home loan. Goodness, you might want to buy one by yourself. And why would we want to vote? We might vote for the woman instead of the man. It has to be said, I don't want to bin any of those rights because they're precious and they were hard won by those early women. Each small step forward, each tiny gain, it required courage, commitment and dedication. They didn't lose heart when it got too tough, and we don't want to be the generation that stops at the next door. Today we celebrate International Women's Day. We have to keep taking those steps forward. And now it's time to open the door and take our rightful place in the boardroom.